The world changed on August 15th, 1971. Hey, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. Back in 1971, for those who may not know it, it was illegal for Americans to own gold. So when I look at what is going on in the economy today, let me ask this question. How in the world can the CEO of a company borrow money just to jack the price of their stocks up? That's criminal. And if you want to know why the rich are getting richer, the poor middle class are getting poorer, our money is fake. And anybody saving dollars is a loser right now.
And I think this system is now on the verge of an implosion. And I think we're going to see this, relatively soon, where the dollar now collapses and the world returns to the gold standard just without the dollar. The dollar, lost a lot of value in the 1970s, about 2/3 of its value relative to the Deutsche Mark, the yen, the Swiss franc. They have no idea the damage that they have unleashed from their policies, especially the mistakes that they've made since COVID. The Federal Reserve has done everything wrong. What the Federal Reserve should have done following the outbreak of COVID was withdraw money from circulation, allow interest rates to go up, because the problem with COVID, and I said this at the time, was a supply problem. People were leaving their jobs. Companies were shutting down. People were staying home. They weren't working. They weren't producing goods. They weren't providing services. So we had a lot less stuff to buy. What the Federal Reserve needed to do was reduce the money supply so that money supply went down with goods supply. Instead, they flooded the economy with money. We increased demand while we were decreasing supply. That's why you're seeing this huge increase in consumer prices right now. A return to the gold standard would mean a rejection of the dollar standard. If the dollar was no longer desired as the reserve, the value of the dollar on international exchanges would collapse, because we have these record trade deficits. We're running trade deficits of about $1.2 trillion a year. It is enormous. It is because the world will take dollars for their stuff. But if they go back to a gold standard, they ain't going to take dollars for their stuff. We're going to have to give them gold, which we don't have. So the dollar is going to collapse. So the entire American standard of living is going to collapse. Now, it's not going to make that big a difference for a lot of the other countries. So, if you're living in New Zealand, for example, the New Zealand dollar isn't a reserve currency. So people in New Zealand have to earn dollars. We don't have to earn dollars. We just print them. Now the people in New Zealand will start earning gold instead of dollars. But the change for America is huge, because we used to be able to print dollars. We can't print gold. We have to earn gold just like everybody else. And that's a game changer for Americans. But it's also a game changer for, people who have savings, people who, are hoping to retire. If you think you're going to retire on a bunch of dollars, it's the dollars that are going to retire, not you. You're going to keep on working unless you take action now and buy some real things, foreign stocks, property, gold and silver.
They announced that the U.S. will come out with a Fed coin in 2024.
That's just going to make the problem worse. That's just going to make it easier for the Federal Reserve to create inflation.
If there's a crash in that stock market, what's going to happen to the baby boomers?
What they have to worry about is not just the crash of the stock market, because that could happen. But what's going to be worse is if the stock market doesn't crash. The only thing that's going to prevent the stock market from crashing is the dollar crashing instead. So I think the baby boom is probably screwed either way, unless they act now, completely change their investment portfolios to be prepared for both a stock market crash or a dollar crash. But the dollar crash is actually worse. Go take a look at a chart of the Zimbabwe stock market. That market never crashed. The problem is it didn't go up as much as the Zimbabwe dollar went down. There are lots of billionaires in Zimbabwe. There are trillionaires in Zimbabwe. Who cares? You're a trillionaire, but you're broke because the money isn't worth anything. If you think you're going to retire because you got $5 million, $10 million, you don't know. What if $10 million is what it costs to buy a cup of coffee? You can't retire on one coffee cup. The worst thing you can be in inflation is a creditor. So you want to be a debtor. In deflation, it's good to be a creditor because the value of the money goes up. And if the borrower defaults, you get their assets. If you borrow money to buy a piece of property and everything crashes and you can't pay the loan back, the lender takes the property. He's got the collateral, so he's got something. If the dollar crashes, the lender's got nothing. He's got worthless money, and you've got a piece of property that you basically got for nothing. But the problem for a lot of people who end up owning their home is, what if something goes wrong? I mean, the maintenance costs are going to go through the roof. The cost of materials, the cost of insurance, and then your electric bill, all your utilities. Things are going to skyrocket in price. So, you may not have to pay your mortgage, but your electric bill may be a lot higher than what your mortgage used to be.
What are the opportunities you see for the average person? What should they be doing today?
Well, I think they should be doing, what I'm doing, what you, Robert, are doing. And that is, don't save dollars, because you're just a sucker if you do that. Buy gold and silver and accumulate assets, real assets outside the United States that pay good dividends. So you want to have businesses where the customer is going to pay the higher price, because there are some businesses where, if you raise your price, you're going to lose your customers. There's a hierarchy of needs, and there are certain things that people need, and they're going to buy the things they need before the things they want. So I want to own the companies that are selling the stuff that people need, because that's where you have the most success at raising prices and still maintaining, your customers. So you need these inflation hedges. You got to get out of the dollar. You got to understand the enormity of the change that is about to take place. The political climate for this crisis could not be worse, because capitalism has never been less popular and socialism has never been more glorified. A lot of people are going to look at this financial apocalypse, really, that we're going to have, and they're just going to blame it on capitalism. They're going to blame it on the rich. They're going to blame it on the bankers. It's very, very dangerous, not only to be an investor, but to be an American.